Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel here. So we've been hyping this one up, or I guess I can't say we, I have been hyping this one up for quite a bit of time now. It's still freezing in Chicago. We're back, as you can tell, in the lovely garage. We got the heater going. I've had that thing blasting for like the last 40 minutes. It's still kind of nippy in here, but we're gonna get through this, right? By the thumbnail, by what I've been hyping up. You guys already know. It is time for the JQ Werks MadTrace steering wheel system, hub assembly, whatever you want to call it, is going in today. Now, I reviewed the instructions. I kind of show you guys the setup, right? I mean, if you want to take a peek, I got my iPad over there to give me the instructions. My phone is somewhere dumped in there. Got a second camera set up here so you guys can kind of see what's going on. And then if we go to the back of the car, I have the entire kit, and it's in, you know, everything that I need essentially to get this guy on here. Now, like I alluded to in the last video, I am terrible with wiring. So we're gonna take our time on this one. After reading through it though, it's all just plug and play. The directions are pretty cut and clear. So I'm just hoping I don't get lost in the shuffle with it all. There's a couple things we gotta remove. I've started already by removing the negative terminal on the battery. I took out the whole thing. At least I didn't take out the whole battery, but I took off the positive and the negative. I'm not getting no surprise with an airbag to the face. End up in the hospital and you guys gonna see me black and blues looking like I got jumped out here. So we disconnected it just to be on the safe side, but now we have to kind of get through the little nuances of the actual install, right? The first part of it is getting that stock steering wheel off. We're gonna start by disassembling kind of like the outer area of the steering wheel, and then we're gonna jump right into, you know, full on removing it. Don't worry, I'm gonna go step by step. This is something I haven't really seen done at all on YouTube. I've seen one video of it, but it wasn't the greatest. So I'm here to give you the step by step. Let's see how we do it together. It says it's compatible with FL5, DE5. We're about to find out and put that one to the real test. Nonetheless, at least if anybody wants to do this swap, you'll have some sort of reference guide as to how to do it one by one. I was looking for it, I didn't see it. I guess we're gonna learn together today, all right? So let's just jump right in here. Let's get this on, because I have been dying to get this on, all right? The first part of this process is we gotta get the airbag out, right? Can you guys see me? Oh yeah, I think I can see myself. Whatever. Important thing is you can see what I'm doing here. So it's saying that it wants me to remove this airbag, right? Now, to do that, there is 2 springs, and I just tested this right now. So if you can see, on the steering wheel, you're gonna have a slit right here where my finger's at. So there's one slit here. I'm gonna push it in, and you're gonna see this right side of the airbag come out. So we're gonna push it in, get it in, boom. You see how it clicked out? Then we're gonna repeat the process, right, on this side. And you're gonna be able to see it actually better on this side just due to the light. You see this little hole right here? So that's the hole you're gonna stick in the Allen key into. So if I stick the Allen key on this side, now we will get this thing to pop off. Boom. And in theory, this whole piece should come out. So I'm gonna get this out and we'll keep on going, all right? All right, and just because the instructions didn't say anything, there's actually a 3rd screw underneath this guy right here. So I found it, it's about right here in the middle part of the steering. And once I got that loose, now this guy comes off, right? So let's go ahead with disconnecting everything on the back end. I'm gonna pick it up here in a sec. So as you've seen, I took the springs out, right? Or I forced the springs to pop out, pops out the airbag. And if you can see back here, we have 2 main clips we gotta disconnect. This one on top, and then the one that I believe goes to the horn on the bottom. Don't quote me on it, guys. But nonetheless, we're gonna get these 2 clips out, and then the airbag should theoretically just come out. All right, so let's pick it up when we get to that part. So we got the top, or whatever that top clip was, we got it out. Now I'm just working with these last 2 here. That, if I'm doing this correctly, you pull up on these 2 white tabs, and then that should release the yellow like pin layout or this plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to do that now without a camera in my hand, and it should release. So that's all I see though that's connected to here is just those 2 plugs. So we're gonna keep it moving just on that, all right? So we got the airbag out, guys. Now I just wanna preface this. I thought this whole yellow tag was coming off, like this whole piece in the back. What ends up happening is once you pry up on these 2 little side clips, and you have to pull it up, and then the whole thing comes off. So I just wanted to make sure I made a note of that for you guys. All right, so now what it's calling for is to remove the center screw on the steering wheel, but there's a clip right above it. So let me show you. You guys see this clip right here. We got to remove this one first, Then we got to get to this this bolt. What I'm seeing is that you got to take that bolt out with an Allen socket set. I bought one today because we didn't have one here. But you have to be very careful because you don't want to ruin the clock spring on behind the steering wheel, right? You have to be extra careful. I hope this thing can take a hit because I have to get it out. I'm pretty sure that's in there tight. But nonetheless, we're going to get that plug removed and then we'll work on getting this. I hope this bolt comes out easy, guys. I really do. So let's see what happens, all right? There you have it, guys. We got the steering wheel out. The directions are calling for me to remove the trim, these two panels here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start removing that so that way I can start working on some of the screws that are behind here that I gotta get off here. So let's get that part of this process done and then we'll see how we gotta proceed here, all right? All right, so we took out the two plastic screws, right, guys? And this trim was covering it, so we obviously removed the two screws. And now is where we start getting into the actual harness itself. This is the first plug you'll be plugging in. If you guys can see it, looks like a Nintendo or like an old school like PS1 controller, right? So if we look below here, this guy's gonna call out this white plug. You see this guy right here? So we're gonna carefully remove this plug it in to the MadTrace plug, and then we'll just plug this guy back in. But nonetheless, we're just gonna go step by step on these instructions, all right? So the little PlayStation plug, this is the one you're gonna go with first, all right? So let's get that in here, and then we'll move on to the rest of the plugs that it wants me to locate and obviously plug in. So we have the new main plug plugged in, right? Here was our original main plug going into the column here. So we take the factory one, plug it into the MadTrace, kit one, and then on the MadTrace side, we plug its own end back into the main connector. It is asking that I remove this center console trim. And on the Type R, I know why it wants to do it because it wants to get to the R mode button. So we're gonna follow these instructions anyway and see where it leads us to. If you guys know, the Acura Integra Type-S doesn't have an R mode, right? It just has Sport Plus. So I'm gonna run the connection regardless just to see what happens. I don't wanna leave anything undone. We'll see if we need it or if we don't, but I'm still gonna remove it just to be on the safe side and just to see if it has any other effect on the other driving modes, right? Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus. So let's get to removing this trim. On the Type R, it's gray. On the DE5, it's the piano black trim. So let's remove that now, get to the plug that it wants us to, and then do the same thing, right? We're gonna use their jumpers or their harnesses and then run it back, all right? So this was a bit confusing. I had to go back and kind of reread what I read because it just wasn't making any sense. And you wanna do it correctly, right? So make this super simple. You have the main harness, which if you guys already know, the main harness is this guy that we attached right here. Now, this is, I think, item number 9 on their listing is what they said. What ends up happening is that there's 2 connections that need to go from 2 separate areas in the car. So if you see here, main harness is here. We have my center console that I took apart already. And if you can tell, this plug right here that connects into, on the Acura Integra Type-S, I'm assuming it's the actual, your way to like go through the modes, right? So Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus is all done through this plug. Since we don't have an R mode in the DE5, like the FL5, you still have to connect the harness, right? Now that harness is this guy right here. This guy is your Type R harness or your Comfort Sport Plus. So you have to connect that in here jump it, right? From that perspective, you need to connect this cable. And this is what I was scratching my head about. I was like, what the heck is this? So what you do is you take this long cable that is only a 2-pin, and on the Type R plug, if you can see it, you see those little like those brown like spots right here. It's for 3 separate plugs, kind of like a PC. And you connect separate fan modules into one like main control hub. Same concept, but you would take this guy, you would connect it in here, and then from here, once you connect it from here, it goes back into your main hub, which is this guy, the very first connection we made. I don't know why they made that so complicated. They could have made it a bit different. I had to follow their actual wiring diagram. The pictures didn't help. They normally do. That's one side of it. Then, as you can see, I've already removed this plastic trim piece here that you need to get rid of. Now, there's a separate harness that you need to plug into that guy. The separate harness that goes into this guy is this one, if you guys can see that. This one's a 4-pin. There's a 4-pin and a 5-pin, so be careful that you choose the right one, because there is 2 of them, but there's 2 for the ESP. I'm guessing maybe the DE5 and the FL5, mine is 4-pin, maybe FL5 is 5-pin, but just make sure you're cognizant of that if you're trying to see what I mean. If you look inside, one has 4 pins, right? This one has 5, this one has 4. So just be cognizant of it. But what ends up happening is you need to, for this ESP module, you need to connect it right here, right? And then the ESP, the actual stock ESP plug goes into the MadTrace harness, which is this guy from here. Then this white endpoint would go back into the factory plug. But then this plug also has that, that weird little brown, I guess, plug. We're gonna call it the brown plug for now. What you end up doing is this wire again, this one, there's 2 in the box, so you guys can see it. Brown plug, you would connect this guy into here, and from there it goes right back into the main harness, which is the very first plug we got. Confusing, it's gonna make a lot of sense in a second, but just so you know, ESP module, one of these guys, and I'll plug it in right now. Let me just make sure I don't do it incorrectly. ESP plug, if you guys wanna see, you would plug it one into here. So that went in. So we have one side here. This other end is gonna go into the main harness, which is the first one we plugged in. And then you just have to tuck it behind the plastic trimming. And then on the flip side of that, we have a second one over here that goes from the R mode harness into the main harness again. So we'll just use, this one has 3 plugs here. So we're just gonna use one of the 3. And now this guy's gonna go to the main harness, and then you just plug in wherever your dynamic mode plug is at, like when you remove the center console. That end goes plugged into the MadTrace side. This one goes back into the original, where the original plug was at. And then you just run this one to the main harness. I know that was a lot of wording, it's basically word vomit everywhere, but I'll show it along as we go here. But I'm gonna start making these connections now, so that way I can start buttoning back up my car. All right, so let's get this done. I wanted to save people from the confusion because that was super confusing and annoying. So hopefully that makes sense, and it will make a lot more sense right now in a sec, all right? So we'll start off with the ESP plug. And if you guys know, you have this black plastic trim here on your left-hand side. We only have one plug here for that ESP module. It has a picture of like traction control, I think. Nonetheless, there's only one plug here. We got the 4-pin. 4-pin to 4-pin, just making sure that this aligns properly. And we're just gonna plug this guy in. You heard the click. And in case you guys are wondering what I was talking about, this is what I meant, like the traction button on off. So it's gonna go plug directly back into here. And this is where I got confused at, because I was like, why does it have a separate connection? So that separate connection that I just did 10 years of explaining worth of, literally, here's your main harness to my right. This guy is gonna go right into the brown plug. You see what I mean? That's literally how simple it is. So once again, we took the MadTrace harness, plugged in the original plug that was going to our traction control ESP module, plugged it into here, the original plug into the MadTrace harness. MadTrace harness plug will end up going back into our original panel. And then we take these separate plug, because if you don't connect both of these, it's not gonna work. So you lose this functionality. So be sure to do it. We'll take this plug. We're going to plug it into here, main harness. All right? Now let's do the drive mode selector, which is all torn apart over there. So let's get that done now. So you guys can see I made the connections, right? Just not yet to the R mode. So I have that crazy connection that needs to go to the main harness already done. I ran that black cable through the center console. Underneath here, this plastic trim that's really flappy, and that gives you the leverage to get it out. I'm just gonna try to find a way to tuck it in way better than what it is right now. So I have to think about a way to do that. Nonetheless, it's here, it's in. All we have to do is connect the R mode plug. All right, so I got it plugged in now with the R mode. You guys have seen how I ran that cable in. Now, all you have to do is, if you guys see, main harness is connected to the MadTrace. Now the MadTrace plug will go directly into where my finger is at, where the original plug used to rest at. So green into the original port of the plug. And then that should be it. We'll connect this plug back into the main harness, right? As you guys seen earlier. We'll connect this guy right back into the main harness. On the right side is another port for this specific plug type. And then we just have to bring back the plastic panel in on this left side to get this guy in. So let's get those going, and we'll pick it back up when that's done and when I got all these interior trim pieces back in. So we got all the plastic trim back on, right? I will say this, when putting the plastic trim back on, specifically the plastic trim that goes around the steering column, you definitely want to be careful how the wire tucks in. So the wire that goes to that ESP module button, right? That's where you want to be careful, because it felt like my wire kind of got a little tangled somewhere. And so when I was testing for the actual assembly to move in and out for the steering wheel, it would come out, but then it wouldn't want to go in, like it was caught on something. I moved the wire, kind of freed up some space, and then I tested it. Now everything works perfect. So just so you know, that's the trick. But in case you're wondering, it's the left wire that goes to this module here. So I don't know, it felt like it was just caught up in something back here. I'm not sure where. I could barely see, but it seems like that kind of did the trick. But now, as you see, everything from the steering column back to the center console area with the piano black, and obviously the other plastic piece that we had to remove is all done. Now we can move to getting the hub on. Let's see how this works out, all right, guys? And lastly, guys, the last step I can see before we get the new base on and the hub and everything is these airbag resistors. Can you guys see that? There you go, I think that's a little better. But these airbag resistors are gonna go where we remove the airbag, so that way it doesn't throw codes or none of that nonsense, since there's not going to be an airbag anymore. But I've already taken the liberty of doing one just to kind of expedite this part, but not that difficult. You plug it into exactly where it rested on the airbag, so in its 2-pin slot. If I were to do this with you guys on the camera, it's probably going to take a couple tries, but there you go. Literally just push it in, and then what we'll do is, like I done on this left side, we're going to take electrical tape, wrap it around it. That way we make sure that it doesn't come loose or it doesn't come off and it stays in its proper location. Then we can move on to the hub. So let's wrap electrical tape on this guy, off camera, of course. We'll pick it back up when we start getting on this hub assembly. So the wheel assembly is now on, guys, and I spent more time fighting with these two airbag plugs than anything else. The easiest way to do it is to push the airbag plugs through the hole. There's a hole at the very top of this adapter. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it here with that light. Maybe you can. Yeah, you see where they're funneling out through? So I pushed them both through one side, ran the hub adapter that goes connected to your original steering wheel, port, the very first port that you see when you remove the steering wheel. So they both have to funnel through. If you see, there's a little line here. You see that little line in the center that indicates center line, but that also goes upward. Now we can put the hub on, or I should say now we can get the screw on so that it holds that hub in place. And then we can move forward with attaching the rest of this whole assembly. Let's get the screw in there, tighten it up. Let's get it to its torque specs. It says it somewhere in the actual directions, but let's get that in and then we'll pick this back up, guys, all right? As you can see here, I got it all buttoned up, or not buttoned up, but it's all bolted down, right? The main hub is back in its assembly. Shout out to JQ Werks, man, for this as well. So you grab this, and it's meant as a stabilizer. So when you're tightening down that bolt, you literally hold it with your left hand here, you're tightening with your right hand here, and it worked out seamless. Everything is plugged in now. The only thing we gotta do is get the last of the bolts in this guy. So, as you can see, I got this thing torqued down. We're all good. I just gotta get these 6 bolts in here. So, I'm gonna work on getting the bolts in, and then we'll move forward with putting on the quick release kit. I cannot wait to see what this looks like with the wheel setup, and then with that whole hub assembly, it's going to look mwah. And then with the Mugen steering wheel, stop, I'm getting too excited. Let's hurry up so we can get to it, all right? And there you have it, guys. That's how it looks installed. And we still gotta get the wheel on here, so let's go get the wheel, but check this thing out. I mean, she is a beauty. Woo-hoo-hoo, man, I'm so in love with this thing now. I have to do it with 2 hands to get it on and off, so I have to set this camera up a little differently. We'll kind of review it in a later video. However, I just wanted to give you guys a glimpse of what this looks like with just this thing on here, which I think it looks pretty badass if you ask me. Let's go get the steering wheel, guys, all right? So we just finished the install right now, and oh my God, does this thing look badass. I don't even know how to describe it. This is so cool. I haven't started the car yet, but just the overall makeup, the Mugen wheel feels so much better. It's definitely thinner than the stock guy, right? So in terms of their thickness, it's gonna take some adjusting for sure. But this thing looks crazy. And if you don't wanna believe me, take a look for yourself. I mean, look at this, guys. This doesn't get any better. You can't even fathom how cool this feels. And look at how thin this is and compare, like, you can see it right here. Like, it's super thin. I mean, but look at this. I can't wait to just start playing with all the buttons. There's stickers for the buttons. There's instructions that dictate what buttons do what. So we'll get into that a bit later. I might just put them on off camera. Follow the instructions and I'll show you guys, like in a review, what it all looks like all together. But this thing looks crazy. I say it's time to put on the battery, see what it looks like lit up. Hopefully it looks cool. Hopefully it lights up, right? Hopefully everything works. I did everything right. But in terms of the aesthetic, I mean, we'll obviously do this better with better lighting, guys, but check it out. I mean, come on, come on. Just the presence of that alone looks insane. Let's get the battery put back on and let's see what this thing looks like. And there you have it, guys. She's on. Looks like I might just have to tweak with buttons. Like I said, I've never done this before. The dashboard is a Christmas tree, but the instructions did say I might have to drive it around again so it could reinitialize itself. So I'm not too freaked out about that. Everything on the steering is working from what I can see. Like my wheels are turning. Everything is working as intended. That was my main thing, is my steering wheel work, because if not, then I got a problem, a really big problem. But everything seems to be good. I will end this video here because it is freezing outside, but you guys got to see how I installed it from beginning to end. Thank you once again for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. I mean, this thing is pretty cool. But with that being said, here, I'm going to shut this door because I'm freezing already. I just wanted to make sure that, obviously, that this thing worked. The biggest thing I bought before Tuner Galleria is now installed. It wasn't difficult, it's just time consuming, right? You just gotta follow the instructions. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that anybody who decides to do this mod, watch it. It's not that difficult at all. I'm not a wire guy, but the instructions made it pretty simple. Outside of, the area where I got confused at. Other than that though, everything seems to be working fine. I got no complaints. I will be back next week. I don't know if we're gonna go directly into the GPS system just yet. I might have another mod for you guys that I haven't told you about. We'll see how I'm gonna do next week's video. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this one. Enjoy your Sunday. I'm gonna go back inside because it is absolutely freezing out here. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the mod, give the video a thumbs up. Comment on it, share it. Guys, you don't understand how big that is and how much that helps somebody like me, a smaller creator. Just put his name out there and then try to get to the masses, right? So if you can, like, subscribe, comment on the video. But until the next video, guys, as always, cógelo con take it easy, because I am out.